Kathy, thanks for being with us today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share my book and some of my ideas that are going on today. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Kathy, you were an Army brat. Tell us about your father and especially your mother.
Okay, well, I was brought up with a very strict dad. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he was a helicopter pilot.
Oh, neat.
Cool.
Yeah, so he was the one on the strict side.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, my mom was the one who always let us get away with stuff.
I see. I hear you.
So she was a very colorful person. I had 2 sisters and a brother, and they were awesome. You know, I was such a rebel back then that I really didn't fully appreciate it. And everything, of course, that they taught me, I had to go against the grain. And now I really wish that I had all that time back again. So,
But then again, you chalked up some experiences you wouldn't have too.
That's very true.
A life learning type of thing as well.
Definitely.
My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. So I was a military brat as well. So I know kind of what you're saying. Your political transformation came about according to your book, in the 1992 election when George H. Bush was running for re-election against Bill Clinton. But there was a spoiler in the race, a third-party candidate named H. Ross Perot. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's kind of what got me switching allegiances. When I was living in Washington, D.C. with my family, of course, they were very conservative.
Sure.
And I moved out to Los Angeles and up and down pretty much the West Coast, and it was very liberal.
Mm-hmm.
So I went the whole gambit there, and then I started just realizing after I went through college and started getting a more in-tuned mind on politics, I started realizing that most of the politicians were the read my lips. Who didn't get the job done, what they promised. And so when Ross Perot came along, I really liked him.
Me
too. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Texas oil billionaire.
Yep. I just loved him and all his charts. And it just seemed like here was a non-political person that could really get the job done. Right. So that's kind of what started my turn.
Okay, cool. Is it true that you started the first all-female construction company in Tampa Bay?
Yes, it is.
Wow,
that's neat.
Yeah, the name of the company was Tool Time and Baby Dolls. It was really cute. Most of the girls, I mean, I started with just one person, me, because I got into the flipping business and fixing fixer-uppers and whatnot.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, and I just so loved it. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just get into this business? So it grew to about 20 girls within 2 years.
That's big.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
wow.
yeah. They were all on payroll. And of course, in the course, I got my building contractor's license here in Florida, and just loved all the remodeling stuff. And most of my girls were single moms who really loved doing remodeling work, but they hated working for guys because the guys wouldn't let them do the fun stuff like mix the mortar and and do the drywall, you know, the real heavy duty stuff. So it was a real good mix of gals.
That's cool. Did you train them or did they already know how to do
they
this
already
stuff?
knew. I mean,
Wow.
I had specialists in drywall, in trim work, carpentry, tiling,
Electrical.
everything,
Plumbing,
pretty much the gamut. It was fun.
Well, you bounced back from a very traumatic injury in 2017 following Hurricane Irma. Tell us about what happened.
Yeah, well, I had been inspecting roofs for Irma and climbing up to the top of these roofs, which is something I'd done many, many times before for over 20 years. And all of a sudden, my ladder just slipped to the left, and I had no choice really but to let go, and fell on my back. And it did a number on me.
You broke your back?
I broke my back in 2 places. I broke both of my wrists and a collarbone. So I was in and out of hospitals for about 3 months. So it really changed my life.
It had to.
Yeah.
It would anybody.
Wow. You wrote a book titled Rules for Deplorables, a Primer for Fighting Radical Socialism. Can you give us an overview of it?
Well, let's say I fell into writing a book.
Okay.
I get you.
Oh, yeah. I've always been a writer. I've always loved to write, and I've always been very politically involved ever since Ross Perot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the one that the family shuts up at the dinner table.
I hear you.
So this was really an opportunity for me to do the best of both worlds for me to be able to write about politics, because I follow it very, very closely. And years ago, I had read the book Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. And I just thought it was really kind of an interesting concept. And I realized right then that that's what the left uses to basically fight against conservative.
That's their blueprint.
Absolutely, yes. And so Saul Alinsky had 13 tactics in his book. And I thought, I've never really seen those tactics broken down in a real concise way that explains to people how they're used in order to transform our country into a socialist state. And that's exactly what they're being used for. So I took one tactic per chapter and I break them down, and I use current events to show how the left is using this against Trump and as well against conservative values.
I see. All right. Well, in chapter 8 of your book, you cover the topic of President Trump's tweeting, which has become rather famous.
Yeah.
But you stated it began, and I didn't know this, in 2005 as a marketing tool for his business interests. So how has Twitter benefited his presidency and his candidacy up to this point? I mean,
well, I think most people would agree that it's been a benefit and a scourge in a sense.
Yes,
but I absolutely 100% believe he needs to keep tweeting.
Yes.
And it's funny because every chapter that I have in my book, I have the corresponding tactic. So tactic number 8 in Alinsky's book is keep the pressure on. And I urge our president to keep the pressure on with his tweets, because that's what he does. Every time he tweets, it sends the left into chaos. And when they're in chaos, they scramble around and they don't really know how to fight him.
That's interesting.
But yeah, and here's another really interesting thing too, Kelly, is that Alinsky talks about Francis Marion. He was called the Swamp Fox in the Revolutionary War. And the reason he was called that is because he used guerrilla tactics. And these guerrilla tactics really irritated the British. And Cornwallis at the time would continuously call the Swamp Fox an ungentlemanly type of man. They would call unchristian, all the stuff that you hear the left calling Trump. And he would just, because the Swamp Fox kept the pressure on by using guerrilla tactics.
So with Twitter, he controls the narrative.
He does. Absolutely. And most people, it hurts their ears when he says things that are, off color. But all in all, he absolutely needs to keep at it. And anybody who tells him he shouldn't has no business giving him any advice at all. Right.
Well, like you said, it's been a plus and a minus. On the one end, he sometimes goes off, but that's what attracts a lot of people to him. He's unvarnished.
Yes.
And they like the fact that he's not politically correct all the time. On the other hand, some people feel that he offends certain groups and people and what have you. So he gets some criticism, which might be called by some deserved. But overall, it's been, I think his Twitter tweets that's what everybody tunes into. He's got like 50 million followers or something enormous.
Yeah.
And every night on CNN, not just Fox News, but CNN and MSNBC, what are they talking about? Something that Trump tweeted today.
That's exactly right.
I never looked at it like he's throwing the
other
side in chaos, but I like that.
Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and he follows Alinsky's tactics. That's what's so fascinating to watch, and most people don't realize that. That's why in my book, I really break that down so people understand. Leave him alone.
Yes. Now, you and Dr. Bob Cundiff. Bob is a city councilman for Clearwater. You're working together on some things.
Yes, he's been very, very helpful to me.
Very good. Very good. What's your take on the Mueller report and the reaction to it?
Well, we need to let it run its course, and we need to let AG Barr do his thing. And I'm so grateful that he's in there now because he seems to understand exactly what's going on. It hurts my ears so much when I hear a politician say, you know what, I think we should just let it go.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just move on. No, we can't move on. This is way too big. At this point, our country, I believe, is at a precipice. And if we don't stop the left in their march to socialism, we're going to find ourselves in the same boat as Venezuela.
Yes.
So it's critical that we hold the people accountable, we hold their feet to the fire, and that we prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
And for those who don't know, who've been living under a rock or just aren't that politically concerned, the Mueller report was a report that Bob Mueller, former FBI director, was appointed special counsel to do an investigation on allegations that Trump was colluding with the Russians to affect the 2016 election, and also that he had obstructed justice. The Mueller report, over 400 pages, I think 18 or 19 lawyers full-time, and
all Democrats.
A couple of thousand subpoenas that were issued, and 500 interviews, and on and on and on and on. Almost 2 years, $35 million. Said no, there really isn't evidence of collusion.
That's right.
They tried to corrupt the Trump campaign, but they just didn't go for it, from what the Mueller report says. But he throws up into the air the possibility of obstruction of justice, which is what Barr. Now they're trying to turn the narrative and make him the subject of a pie throwing contest and diverting it away from the issues. And that is, the whole report's been put out there except the grand jury testimony.
That's right.
So no matter what Barr says or what he said 3 weeks ago in a memo, that's old news. It should be. So I agree. It should move on, look at the report, do their thing. But mainly we need to take care of the things that the country's concerned about. And that's foreign policy and security and immigration, infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I do agree with you there, Doug. But the problem is, if we do leave this unchallenged, we're going to have a big problem, because the FBI and the DOJ have obviously are now the heads of them, the ones on the 7th floor there, they are a deep state. And it goes a lot deeper than just Comey and the usual actors there. So we have to ferret those people out if we don't want this to ever happen again.
I agree there completely. I think they should move away from accusing Trump of wrongdoing. But they should go back and look at how this whole came about, and the very possibility that this was, in a way, a coup d'etat.
Yes, it was.
Attempt. So in any case. So,
Kathy, how can one obtain a book, your book, Rules for Deplorables?
Well, thank you for asking. They can go to my website. If your listeners would do that, they'll find all sorts of different places that the book can be obtained. It's available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle formats, but it's also available at over 39,000 distributors worldwide. So if they go to my website, they'll get all the information there, which is www.rulesfordeplorablesbook.com.
Okay.
Excellent.
Rules for Deplorables book. And there's no dots in there. It's all together. Rulesfordeplorablesbook.com.
That's correct.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, thanks for being with us today. Hey, good luck with the book.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's important to get the word out.
And the timing's good. The 2020 elections are upon us, and people are more politically energized than normal this time of year and going for the next year. So I think you got a good thing here.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for having me.
Great.